Montana as a Kansas City Chief, but Montana, for one, does not understand what happened in New England that resulted in Brady making a change. Montana had this to say to USA Today. I don't know what's going on inside there, but somebody made a mistake, he said to Jarrett Bell of USA Today. I think when you look at the whole situation, you try to figure out how you want to get away from things that are there. I had a different story where they had made a decision. He obviously, they never would have gotten rid of. I still don't understand how New England let him get away. I still don't understand that. Marcus Spears is back here with us. Stephen A., I want you to answer this question for me. Do you agree with Joe Montana's comments?
Yeah, I do. I really, really do, especially now. It made more sense, even though I would have disagreed with it then. It made more sense if you definitively have somebody like a Jimmy Garoppolo, who you thought to be the quintessential heir apparent. Bill Belichick wanted to make that move. Obviously, Robert Kraft usurped his authority, made sure that Tom Brady didn't go anywhere. They went to 3 straight Super Bowls, won 2 of them. We know the story. And so as a result of that, you can sit up there and easily side with Robert Kraft in this particular situation. But now we fast forward to 2020. And in 2020, if you're Bill Belichick, you do not have a quarterback. All you need to know is they just re-signed Brian Hoyer. I mean, think about that for a second. I mean, Stidham, you got him. I mean, who is he? Okay? I mean, come on now. If there was Jimmy Garoppolo that was there, it would make sense. Just like you might have disagreed when San Francisco was willing to lose Joe Montana. But you had Steve Young. The fact that New England doesn't appear to have someone definitive that they penciled in as the heir apparent to Tom Brady, that a new era indeed has begun with this particular individual, why not just sit up there and say, look, man, we're going to ride this wave. This dude says he wants to play 2 more years. Let's make sure we get the requisite pieces around him so we can facilitate his success to the best of our ability. The fact that Bill Belichick, and I'm putting it solely on him, because remember, Robert Kraft called me the day that Tom Brady released this stuff on Instagram and said right during this show, he called me on the phone and said, if Tom Brady wanted to stay, we would have worked it out. He didn't want to stay. And there's only one reason Tom Brady didn't want to stay, because he didn't feel like he was wanted enough by Bill Belichick. And if you're Bill Belichick, why would you not want him at this point unless you're still salty over the fact that you had to let go of Jimmy Garoppolo a few years back? It really makes no sense. So I do agree with Joe Montana.
Well, in Joe Montana's case, Stephen A., as you mentioned, Steve Young was widely known not only as the best backup in football, but probably one of the best quarterbacks in football before he ever really got a chance over an extended period to show it. Everyone knew it, right? His talent was obvious, and Steve Young was my favorite player to watch back then. He was so much fun to watch. Montana, they decided, probably had a year or 2 left, and he did. At the Joe Montana level, he had a year left, and then still enough to help his team to the playoffs the following year, and then he was done, and they determined that Steve Young, even if it was never going to be as great as Joe Montana, because who was, had 10 years in front of him, so they chose the 10 over the 1 or 2, which is what Belichick tried to do with Garoppolo and Brady. Understand me. Garoppolo was never going to be likely as good as Tom Brady, but at that moment in time, Belichick made the determination, Brady's got a year or 2 left, and Garoppolo's got 10 in front of him. I'll take 10 over 2, and look what Garoppolo did. So at this point, Joe Montana is saying, I don't understand it, because Brady successfully engineered the ouster of the guy who was going to take his place. Now what do they have? I'll tell you what, really what we're looking at, Garoppolo was more special, I think, than people realize. I think he's proven that with San Francisco. When he wasn't playing, they didn't win at all. When he is playing, they almost never lose. They had a 10-point lead on Mahomes in the Super Bowl in the 4th quarter, for crying out loud, most recently. Now there's nothing there. Garoppolo's more special than people realized, and at this point, I'll bet you Ernie Adams believes Tom Brady is less special than people think at this point.
You know, as we've been going through this, first of all, we won't know who made a mistake until the season plays out. That's number one. I tend to want to give Bill Belichick a little more credit as far as having some type of succession plan or navigating his way through Tom Brady no longer being there. It's a difference. The difference is Bill O'Brien and DeAndre Hopkins had obviously some situation with their relationship that maneuvered a player in his prime, one of the best at his position, to another team. We can harshly critique that move. We can't harshly critique a 42-year-old quarterback being let go by his former team after accomplishing so much. We can get into the relationship with Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, and obviously there's a rift there some type of way. It's not all good between those two guys, but to sit here and say, somebody made a mistake. I mean, we don't know that. What if Tampa doesn't have a good season with Tom Brady at quarterback? Did they make a mistake? What if Bill Belichick in New England goes and wins 11 games and still doesn't win a Super Bowl? Like, we're measuring these guys based off the success that both of them has had a major part in creating. So to sit here today and say that someone made a mistake, we don't know what Brady's going to be this year. This may be the cliff that Max has been trying to talk about for the last 3 years, like Stephen A. says. Or this may be one of those situations where you look back and say, well, Tom Brady had juice and look what Tampa did. And then we look at New England. What if Jarrett Stidham plays well? We don't know that. I just tend to give Bill Belichick more credit than people want to give him at this point by saying he made a mistake, and he's arguably the greatest coach of all time, just like we talk about Tom Brady being the greatest quarterback of all time.
Well, Swagoo, I mean, just like Tom Brady has thrown interceptions from time to time, Bill Belichick has made some mistakes from time to time. Nobody's perfect. Secondly, and more importantly, let's take this into consideration, and I'll throw this in your direction, Swagoo. Listen to this. Even though DeAndre Hopkins is considerably younger, suppose he goes to Arizona and wet the bed next season. Okay, that's not going to happen. We all know that's not going to happen. But hypothetically speaking, let's just say that does happen. Bill O'Brien won't look so bad all of a sudden. But it ain't stopping us from saying that Bill O'Brien was a damn fool for letting him go at this particular juncture, because there was simply no excuse. Because you got Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins, and they're proven commodities. Now let's go back to Brady Belichick. They're a proven duo commodity. We know they work. What's your backup plan? Stidham? Brian Hoyer, somebody? What are we talking about here? Now, if you got Jimmy Garoppolo waiting there, that's different. But if you don't have a plan, what's wrong with that? What's wrong with saying it doesn't look like it doesn't look like a smart thing for them to let go of Tom Brady?
If they don't bring in a veteran quarterback who's perceived as a franchise guy or at least a starter, what this tells me, remember they won 11 games with Matt Castle. What this tells me is that Belichick believes that Stidham is ready, that Hoyer's a backup to push him or as a safety net, but that Stidham is ready to win double digits. Yes, that's what that tells me if they don't bring in a veteran.
And to that point, that's what I'm saying. Like, can we not unvalidate Bill Belichick in order to validate Tom Brady? Can both of them be right in the situation? And look, Stephen A., to the point with DeAndre Hopkins, 27 years old and in your prime is different than 42 years old and maybe 1 or 2 years left to play the game in totality. So I don't compare those to being the same thing. And Bill O'Brien know damn well DeAndre Hopkins
Brady's a quarterback. DeAndre Hopkins is a wide receiver. That's all I'm saying.
But I understand that. But my point being is this. Bill Belichick may have sat in his office with whoever he talks to about this and said, listen, Tom Brady is 42. We need to get our plan going now to take this franchise 10 years into the future. Jarrett Stidham may be the guy. I got a question back to you. Did we know Tom Brady was the guy when Drew Bledsoe got hurt?
No, we did not know. But I want to say this to you. Be careful about leaning on Max Kellerman because Matt Kellerman keeps bringing up Matt Castle, all right, from 11 or 12 years ago. Max keeps forgetting back then he had a crew cut, no facial hair, and he was trying to be Eminem. Ain't nobody, I mean, that's a long damn time ago. So to use that as an analogy ain't necessarily cutting it. I mean, just stop it. Like, I mean, how many times you going to bring up that Bill Belichick had a successful season 12 years ago with Matt Castle instead of Tom Brady? You know how long 12 years ago is? My hairline was 2 feet
Hold
forward.
up. So in other words, did Belichick forget how to coach? Did Belichick forget how to coach in the last decade?
Is all I'm trying to say.
Stephen
You can't go by 12 years ago.
They have been more successful over
you
the
wasn't even trying to be a
12
TV.
years than they had around that time.
TV was your side gig.
They lost the Super Bowl the year before.
Back then.
They
You were
didn't
trying
make
to
the
be
playoffs
Eminem.
that year. Since then, they made more Super Bowl runs. You telling me that Belichick forgot how to coach since then? My point is,
I'm not saying that at all.
Since he became the great Bill Belichick head coach. One season without Brady.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying stop bringing it up.
Quarterback.
Stop bringing it up from 12 years. It was 12 years ago. You was trying to be Eminem. You was trying to be Eminem back then. You wasn't even trying to be a TV. You was doing TV as a side gig. Stop it.
There are some things that don't matter from 12 years ago, like how the Bucks were doing, which you and Molly seems to think are important. There are things that are relevant from 12 years ago, like, oh, that was the time Belichick didn't have Tom Brady. What is so difficult about this? You think Belichick forgot how to coach in the last 12 years?
You was playing back then, wasn't you? There's a lot that happens in 12 years, and Max knows that better than anybody.
Yeah, Belichick got better at
Max
coaching.
trying to be a TV. Max trying to be a TV star now. Listen, back then, Max was trying to be Eminem. Or I don't know, or Vanilla Ice.
I got bad news for you, Stephen A. 12 years ago wasn't that long. You got to go back about 20.
Actually got flow.
25.
No. Eminem, Vanilla Ice.
No, 27. I was 19. That was 27 years ago. We're old.
Listen, man.
My goodness.
The bottom line is
the
this,
Eminem reference is one thing. Vanilla Ice is a whole nother level.
We don't have to kill Bill Belichick in order to lift Tom Brady and vice versa. Let's give Bill Belichick some time to prove that he's one of the greatest coaches of all time.
All right, you apologists. Bye, swag girl. We got your point.
Goodbye, everyone. We will be back here tomorrow. More for